If you are worried you have Lyme disease, or just like the outdoors, and want the peace of mind of knowing whether you have Lyme disease or not, there is a new Lyme screening test based on decades of research by Dr. Richard Marconi, a professor at VCU Medical Center. For more information, visit glymedx.com. That's glymedx.com, or email at info@glymedx.com.
Infectious diseases, research, medicine, health. Welcome to Outbreak News Interviews. And now, broadcasting from the Outbreak News Skylar Studios in beautiful West Central Florida, here is your host, microbiologist and editor of OutbreakNewsToday.com, Robert Harriman.
My guest today is Stephen LaRosa, MD. He's an infectious disease physician up in Massachusetts, and he's got a blog that has some pretty interesting stuff on it. It's called My Thoughts on the Future of Infectious Disease in Medicine, and that's at drlarosa.blogspot.com. I encourage you to check it out, and I will post it later on the website. Dr. LaRosa, another post that I saw, I read them all, but another one I found very interesting was concerning penicillin allergies. And in there you note that you believe that these perceived allergies are not what they seem. Can you talk about what you mean?
Yeah, sure. So, wearing my hat as somebody who's actively involved in antibiotic stewardship, what you really try to do in stewardship is to make sure that a patient receives the right drug for their infection for the right duration. And often the right drug is a very narrowly focused drug, including a penicillin agent. But unfortunately, 10% of patients will say they have a penicillin allergy. And when you actually go through the data, it turns out that only 10% of these 10% are real. So really only 1% of the overall population has what would be called a true penicillin allergy. And by that I mean hives, anaphylaxis, throat closing, things that would be absolute contraindications. It's only 1%, but you have a large number of patients who will claim to have a penicillin allergy. And there's a few things that I don't think that we do, generally speaking, a good enough job at really drilling down to those true allergies, because we know from good data that if an allergy was remote, meaning more than a decade, and the patient doesn't really even remember what the reaction was, that it's unlikely that it is a significant penicillin allergy, and it would really be unfortunate to withhold a penicillin agent or a member of the penicillin family in that setting. Similarly, if someone gave you a history that they did in fact get a rash, but it was many days into therapy, then that's not likely to be an immediate hypersensitivity reaction, and that also would not be a contraindication to giving them a member of the penicillin family or beta-lactam family in the future. So I think we have to do a much better job. The other at drilling down in these histories, the other thing we know that in terms of cross-reactivity, there's another group of agents called cephalosporins that actually have a very low cross-reactivity with people who have true penicillin allergies, and that it's usually safe to use a third or fourth generation cephalosporin in those settings. I think this is all very important going forward. From when we're not using penicillin agents, the cost of therapy is going up. We have a problem with Clostridial difficile colitis cases, which we know tend to occur more often when you're forced to use some broad-spectrum non-penicillin agent instead of penicillin. And there are also reactions and toxicities to these other classes of drugs. So I think as part of stewardship, we need to focus more on what are really true penicillin allergies.